Hey, hope your day's going well. Welcome to Dead Finance, where I share my personal financial journey while playing Deadlock in the background. Today I'm going to be sharing some tips on how I reduce my expenses in order to maximize my savings rate. A quick disclaimer, I must stress that I'm not a financial expert. I'm only sharing my personal financial journey. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice, as it is simply for entertainment. Please do your own research for your personal journey, as everybody's situation is different. Before I get into my savings techniques, I must shine light on the average American. It's very easy for people on YouTube, including myself, who may have a successful career, come out and say, do this, do that. So simple. When in reality, a lot of Americans are struggling right now, and they can't save $1,000, let alone start maxing retirement accounts or instantly paying off all credit card debt. So I want to stress that some of the things I may be suggesting or have personally done may not be feasible for everyone, whether it's in this video or others I make. Call what you want, whether it's privilege, good decision making, or even just dumb luck. I am where I am today, and I want to share my personal journey to show what is possible and hopefully help those just starting out, regardless of their current financial position. In the future, I want to do a fair bit of research on what the average American goes through in terms of the debt they carry and their income levels. And I'd like to create a video to share the struggles of your average person. With that all said, let's get into how I reduce my expenses. In order to first understand how and where you can save money, you need to create a budget. There are multiple budgeting apps, but I just use a spreadsheet. Creating an accurate budget will give you an exact idea of how much money you have coming in, whether it's from your job, side hustles, or investments, and the money going out, or your expenses. I like to break my expenses into two categories, which are fixed cost and spontaneous costs. An example of a fixed cost is my rent. An example of a spontaneous cost would be tickets to see an NHL game. The way I track my spontaneous expenses, which includes everything besides streaming services, utilities, insurances, and housing, is to just use my monthly credit card statements. I use credit cards for all of my purchases, given I have them set to automatically pay in full each month. This way I never pay interest on the balance I have on the card, and I rack up points in the meantime. If you cannot pay a credit card in full each month, do not use them. Credit card interest is insanely high. The average is over a 20% interest rate. If you carry a balance month to month, you rack up a large amount of interest payments that are compounding against you. Bad use of credit cards can quickly cripple your financial success. By using one or two of my credit cards for all of my purchases, getting a monthly expense report is really easy. I can then average multiple credit card statements to get an idea of what I spend on average month to month. Once you have your total income and total expenses, take a look at the difference. Are you positive or negative? Regardless of the difference, there are always ways to cut costs. The easiest way to cut expenses is to prioritize the fixed cost or necessities. Depending on how much excess income you have, try to limit how much you spend on things you want. If you want to reduce your total annual expenditure by $5,000, simply cut out $13.70 a day. This is probably pretty easy for a lot of you. Ask yourself, do you go to Starbucks every day before work? Do you go out to eat with colleagues every day for lunch? On your way home, do you stop by the grocery store to get a little snack? Evaluate your day-to-day spending and see what can easily be cut or altered. I'm not saying don't drink coffee or don't eat, but maybe start making your own coffee and try to pack your own lunch. How often are you buying new shoes or clothing? If you look into your closet right now, are there things that still have tags on them, which you've never even worn? Think about all the money you've wasted on useless cosmetic stuff. Try to prioritize the needs, then indulge in that rare treat, which you've budgeted for, knowing that you can pay for it. I would say being disciplined and not spending so much on cosmetics or wants is the easiest way to save money. Just focus on the things you need. Now I want to get into specific things I do to save money. I'm already quite disciplined in reducing the spending on wants. For example, I have clothing that I still wear from over 8 years ago. I have a sweatshirt that I often wear to work where I had just sewn together a bunch of holes around the cuff in order to extend its life. But moving on, I want to first talk about food. We all gotta eat. Ideally, you can cook. Eating out is incredibly expensive and should almost be treated as a luxury or used only for special occasions, especially if you enjoy getting cocktails. You don't need to be a high-end chef to make good food. Try exploring recipes that seem interesting. I've been cooking ever since I was a kid. Over time, you develop your own flavor profile when it comes to go-to spices and salt amounts, so a lot of the work becomes automatic. Cooking is an amazing skill to develop for everybody. It can save you a lot of money, increase health metrics, and maybe even get you that second date. Now, there are some upfront costs to cooking. You need pots and pans, knives and utensils. I recommend getting most things used. I have all clad pans I found at Goodwill for less than $15. Brand new, these pans each cost over $100. Now on to actually purchasing food. Food expenses have drastically increased over the past few years. It's easily one of my top spending categories, being a 6'2" fella. Where I live, there is a grocery chain called Grocery Outlet Bargain Market. They often have very low prices on items. I recently got a dozen cage-free eggs for $1.50. Sometimes they have flash sales on items that are soon going to quote-unquote expire, despite these items lasting many days past the supposed expiration date. I would say I do 90% of my shopping at Grocery Outlet, and then the other 10% is at Costco. Now I know Costco isn't everywhere, but if it is available to you, it may be worth looking into. There is an annual membership fee of $65, but you gain access to purchasing items in bulk. I purchased a majority of my protein at Costco. The way I evaluate if a certain protein is worth the cost is by comparing the weight and the price. If I can find stuff that comes out to less than $5 a pound, that's a decent price in my book. I recently bought a 6-pound bag of meatballs for around $20. This comes to $3.33 a pound. I get chicken thighs and drumsticks at Costco. Drumsticks are especially a cheap cut of meat. I freeze all the excess for later use. By buying in bulk and specifically looking at the price per unit or price per pound, you can save a fair amount of money in the long run. You may spend more today, but the stuff you are buying will last a lot longer, therefore saving money. I recommend using the unit price or price per weight as a metric to evaluate all food and items regardless of where you shop. Shopping for toilet paper, see how much a single roll costs by looking at the unit price, and then compare the sizes of different packages. Oftentimes, getting the larger pack saves money in the long run. My second tip is to try to buy used. There's nothing wrong with buying secondhand items. Goodwill is your friend. Why buy the item new when you can get it at a steep discount while it still performs the exact same function? If you're into the outdoors like I am, take a look at REI if there's one nearby. They have something called the garage sale, where they resell items that have been returned or slightly used. I recently bought a pair of trail running shoes for $70 that still had near perfect tread on them. New, these shoes cost around $130. I would say the biggest savings when buying used is a vehicle. I'm not an expert when it comes to purchasing a vehicle, but I will only ever buy a used car or motorcycle going forward. The amount of money you lose just by driving a new car off the lot is insane. Let somebody else make that mistake for you. Another way I save money is by paying for things in full or on an annual basis, specifically insurance. For my auto, motorcycle, and renter's insurance, I pay the full annual amount instead of paying a monthly or quarterly amount. By paying it in full, you can save tens to hundreds of dollars over the year, which may not sound like much, but year over year, decade over decade, it adds up to a substantial amount. Another example is cell phone. I only buy new phones on Amazon and pay in full for an unlocked version. I would recommend avoiding paying for a phone through the planned carrier, as they often may be offering the phone for just $30 a month, but it takes 3 years to pay that off, where you end up spending $1,080 for that phone, which on Amazon might just cost you $700 if you were to pay for it outright. This might not always be the case with phone carriers, so you need to do the math and confirm exactly what you are paying for. My final tip comes to streaming services. Since you already created a budget, you should know what streaming services you have and hopefully only pay for the services you actually use. I like to cycle through streaming services. Maybe I have HBO for a few months, watch all the content that seems interesting to me, and then I cancel that subscription and move on to Netflix and do the same thing for the next few months. This way, you are only paying for one video streaming subscription per month, and you're actually using that one service. Another thing is to try to sign up for family plans with friends or loved ones. This can reduce the cost per person when compared to having to pay for it individually. Or you can always join the high seas, wink wink. So to summarize, the first thing you must do is create a budget and have a solid understanding of what money comes in and what money goes out and where it goes. Develop discipline when it comes to buying things. Prioritize buying needs and not wants. Reduce your daily spending on habitual cost, such as lunch with colleagues or coffee in the morning. Learn to cook, and when buying items, look at the unit price or price per weight and compare different sizes to find the most savings. Buy used items when possible. Pay in full or for a year's service instead of monthly or quarterly installments. Cycle through streaming services. Try to only pay and use one service at a time. One final note is that there is a balance to everything, including our savings and spending. One thing that I personally need to work on is spending more money on fun things and travel, go and see some new stuff. If you fixate on every little penny, you miss out on so many life experiences, even if they cost a little bit now. The non-monetary benefits are priceless. By being way too frugal, you can strain relationships with your friends, family, or even your partner. Don't be the friend in the group that is going to fixate on every little cost, such that you ruin the experience for everybody. If you can't afford it, don't partake now, but instead budget and save for the next time and enjoy it with everybody. Well, that concludes this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and comment below if you learned anything new, or if you were planning on adopting any of my tips. Please check out my other videos if you're interested in learning about my financial journey. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take it easy.
Can't go in. He survived.
You have paved the way for the Arch Mother's return.